This is the Weekly Scramble, a place where we chat about life over a cold one or two. It's time to belly up to the pod with Mike Fratelloni and your host, Chris Reuvers.
We are back. It's the Weekly Scramble after a week hiatus. My name is Chris Reuvers. By my side, as he has been for, I'm going to say a decade now. Mike Fratelloni with Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Reuvers?
I'm great. We're getting back into the swing of things.
Feels good to be home, doesn't it?
It does. You know, even amidst the lousy weather, it's just good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be home.
Yeah, someone said there was a company for sale in California, and my kid said, do you want to go buy that company? And I said, why? And they said, we're not moving to California. I was like, you want to move on? They were like really adamant that they wanted to stay in Minnesota. I'm like, man, have you guys been suckered? Because I'm a suckerer, right?
Sure,
I force them to be
same.
suckered. But, you know, you missed something, and I missed something. I really wanted to ask you this because it's kind of a really important question. A lot of things are going on in the world today, and I really want your kind of honest feedback of what happened.
All right.
So I was on Twitter, and I saw a picture of you sitting there on the beach in Fort Myers.
Okay.
You looked healthy. Everything was great. But down on your feet were a pair of black socks. Who wears socks to the beach? And these weren't like swimming shoes. These were just a pair of like low, like tennis shoe socks, the kind that are low on your ankle. Ankle booties, I think they call them. What were you thinking?
So,
Do you have hideous feet?
I'm not. I have huge, hideous feet.
Oh, do you?
But
They look normal sized.
Those were, in fact, aqua socks.
They were?
They were. And I ordered...
That makes it way, way worse that you're an adult man wearing aqua socks.
Do you know why I wore them?
Embarrassment of your feet?
Well, partly.
Okay.
I truly do not like walking into the ocean and feeling the stuff.
Yeah.
Or even if I'm on, lake, whatever, here.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't like my feet touching... Plus, I don't want to cut my foot.
No.
That's what I worry about most. But anyway, I wore those because I knew it would embarrass my family.
Okay.
And that's what my number one job as a father and husband is to embarrass my family. I'm going to do something unprecedented. I'm taking these headphones off.
Okay.
Because they're cutting in and out. And it's
you know
driving
what
me
is
nuts.
that? I was really, really thinking that was cool that you did that. When I first met my lovely wife, she found out that I had a bald spot because we met, I sent her a Facebook message, but in none of my Facebook posts do I have a bald spot because I don't take the back of my head in pictures, right? And so she found out that I had a bald spot, and she on our third date, she gave me a kiss right on the bald spot that I knew I had her. But then at some point in time, she had to see my feet. Ooh. And I have those feet where she calls my toes tingers instead of toes. They're like long toe fingers. They're exceptionally long. And the middle one, or the second one over from the thumb toe, is like twice as long as all the rest of the toes. It sticks out.
Throws off everything.
Yeah, and I said, we were joking. We went to the Mall of America yesterday to buy my girls some new Birkenstocks for summer, right? And the kids wear those. And I said, should I get a pair? And my daughter was like, well, you totally could, but your one toe would dangle off the edge of the front. And even I don't wear socks on the beach, Reuvers. Even I have hideous, long, skinny, weird, and I can wave like this with my hand. You can't see it, but wave with all my toes. It's a skill that I have. And even my sweet, someday she's going to divorce me, and she's just going to say, I can't live with your feet anymore. I just can't do it. But I still won't wear socks. So you did your kids have little water socks on too?
No. In fact,
okay, so just dad.
She tried to hide them from me because we did. I know you'll find this shocking. We did 3 baseball games in 3 days.
Okay.
But you're spring training, right?
That's
we're staying. We rented a house in Cape Coral.
Yep, nice place.
So it was 20 minutes, I think, for us to get to the Twin Stadium. Yep. Maybe 30 to get to the Red Sox, and then we did end up driving up to Bradenton one day because she loves.
How long is that drive?
It took us an hour and a half to get there and over 2 to get home.
But not horrible.
No, I mean, it's Florida. You just expect that. But she said, can we have one day where it's a beach day? I said, absolutely. I said, we can go more if you want, But she said, no, just let's. But the problem was, as you well know, a lot of the beaches down there haven't reopened since the hurricane. And we found shoot, I can't remember the exact name, if it was actually Fort Myers Beach. I don't know which one it was, but all of the hotels on this beach were all closed because of the hurricane damage. But it was still open. But I said, well, yeah, we can go. I think it was Wednesday last week. And she said, okay. And she tried to hide said aqua socks from me so I wouldn't wear them to the beach, which I can't blame her.
No. So there's a term. Have you ever heard the term death by 1,000 cuts? So what happens is you and I are solid C pluses.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And as men, maybe some C's, certain things we're B pluses on, right? But in general, so we have to be very careful not to commit suicide by 1,000 cuts to our wives.
Yes, correct.
So we can't, like, I don't push my feet into my wife's face.
No.
Because she would say, okay, that's it. Like, that's one more thing piled on to the death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
And I think maybe your wife was trying to tell you, Chris, don't wear these aqua socks.
Right.
Because it's one cut of the 1,000 that make me not love you anymore. And you don't want that.
And what I should have should have had under consideration was the day we went to the Twins game at Hammond Stadium, which I gotta say, and I know I'm biased because I'm a huge Twins fan. That is, they do such a great job of fan accommodations, being family inclusive. I mean, it's seriously such a great facility for families.
They do that Transgender Tuesdays, which is super cool. Just making
See
that
why?
up. Okay.
Why do you gotta ruin my
I was
moment?
baiting the hook for everybody that's listening.
Because we did go. I had never been to JetBlue before. This was probably my 6th time going
What's
to Hammond
JetBlue?
Stadium. JetBlue is where the Red Sox play, on the other side of Fort Myers.
Didn't know that. Okay.
And we were there. And granted, it was Sunday, so it's a weekend day, and it's spring break. It was so freaking packed and it was hot. It was sticky.
Do they do that standing room only too, where you can just go park
and that's
yourself
where I was
in the
going.
field? Okay, go ahead.
So you don't have a spot, because I tried to tell my wife and kids, I said, I got us standing room tickets because I knew we don't
just going to walk around.
Yeah, we were just going to walk around. And I said, listen, that's part of the bit here. She said, well, we got to find somewhere to sit in the shade, or otherwise the boys aren't going to last. And I said, okay, well, I went and got ice cream, right?
Sure.
And then we walk around a little bit. Oh, look at that. Cool. They had the actual World Series trophies on a table where you could come take a picture. And I just realized I didn't tweet that out, which is super cool. And so, but it was so jam packed. But the Twins do. And by the way, the Pirates Stadium in Bradenton is also very, very fan friendly. Very cool.
And then on the way home, did you stop in St. Louis?
Yeah, I'll get there in a moment.
What was that? Okay.
So, but back to the death by 1,000 cuts. We're sitting, and you've been to Hammond Stadium before, so you know this. The part where there's the grassy area down the first base line, right? Past where the seats are. It's a great spot if you just want to put down a blanket and you're right on, basically right next to the field. It's great. And my 11-year-old, who's starting to become aware of certain things, right? And he says, hey, Dad, this is probably, we had been sitting there for 3 or 4 innings or whatever. And my 11-year-old says, Dad. I said, what's up, buddy? He said, number 13 keeps looking at Mom. Because she was kind of sitting. She was sitting a little bit further away from us because she wanted to be in the heat, like in the sun. And I went, okay, cool.
Was she wearing a thong and a bikini top?
No,
probably?
no. She was just dressed.
Or was she looking at number 13?
No, it was not.
Okay, because I was like, wait, did you just go drag her out of there like, honey, we're going home?
I said, well, okay. And I didn't know how to respond to my 11-year-old son when he said that.
Did you look up like number 13's net worth? And it's like, he signed a contract for $111 million. And you're like,
no, but he did hit a home run for the Twins yesterday.
And then did he just point to your wife? That one's for you.
No, I did not. But we now refer to him as Mom's boyfriend.
Oh, got it.
When we're watching a Twins game.
Lucky number 13.
Lucky number 13. Anyway, so you mentioned, well, let me get this out of the way first, because your family has been Florida people for a long time.
Yeah, Bonita Springs, right down
and
there.
I will say this. Florida and I, we get along great.
Sure.
But it's because Florida and I, we don't date. We have weekend getaways once in a while, right?
Sure.
Where I come in hot to town, right? Me and Florida are ready to go. And I know in 4 days, 5 days, I'm going to be out
ready
of here.
to go. Yeah.
Right? Because
you're not committed to it.
I could not live there. And I mean that.
Okay. Too hot? Or just the
that's
traffic?
Part of it. Like the humidity did get to me a couple of times. So that must be part of it. Florida and I just need to be friends with benefits.
Okay.
That's what we need to be. Right. You know what I mean? Because I was, we got in, I got down there to pick them up at the airport Saturday at 7 o'clock, I believe is when their flight landed in Fort Myers.
Sure.
So I left here Friday.
Does everybody know that you drove down to meet them because that's the way you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I have finally saw the light on this, and I'll get to that.
Got it.
So I got all the way. I left. I dropped the kids off at school, got all the way down past Nashville, and I stayed Friday night in Murfreesboro, which is right on the freeway.
Okay.
So I stayed there Friday night for. I slept for 4 hours.
Sure, just enough to be refreshed.
Yeah, just enough to eat, crash for a couple hours, and take a shower. Got back up, got back on the road, drove through Atlanta on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, you thought it would be okay.
When everyone and their brother is going to Florida for spring break. And I mean, you name all the license plates from all over the place, right? Yep. So Atlanta is a hot mess for traffic. And I knew that going into it.
And you still have a long way to go from Atlanta, too.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. And you told me this. He said, once you cross the Florida, you start, I'm almost there. No, you still got another 5 hours or whatever it is.
At least.
So I got there, picked them up. We got to our house. It was great, right? We had awesome weather. It was 90 every day. It was sun. She got to go for her run every day. It was awesome. We had a great time. Coming back, I dropped them off at the fort, and they had a late flight on Thursday. So I had to wait there because she said, well, we can just Uber from the house. I said, no.
Just in case.
I'm going to make sure you guys are on the plane.
Yep.
Right? So Thursday, I dropped them off.
Should have always taken number 13's private jet home.
Oh, that's the other thing I got to be worried about. Speaking of death by a thousand cuts.
I'm making sure you're getting out of town.
So, right, exactly. So I dropped them off at 6 o'clock because their flight was on time, and this was the day before we got all the snow.
Oh, got it.
Because I mean, I knew we were under, but they were okay because they were getting back in time, and they were fine. So I dropped them off at about 6 and just start heading north as fast as I can, try to get as far as I can. And I got to, is it pronounced Ocala?
Ocala.
Ocala. And it was about 10 o'clock, and I'm thinking I might as well crash here for the night because I still got a long ways to go, right? So got checked in, ate some dinner, go to bed, and get up, hit the road again about 6 o'clock in the morning, start heading back. And I'm thinking, oh, God, it's a weekday, so I'm going to hit traffic in Atlanta again. Oh my God.
Horrible.
It I bet added 3 hours to my trip. It was that bad to the point where it had rerouted me twice because of one because of an accident and the other because of just sheer gridlock. So I remember I have a really good friend who lives in St. Louis. His name is Kurt. He used to be on radio. He used to work for KDBB in this town. Kurt Copeland. He's been on Cool and Away. Great guy. He and I go way back. So he now works in St. Louis. And so my plan was I was going to get up early Friday, get all the way to stay at his place Friday night because I haven't seen him in a while. It's always a blast. We stay up way too late, but whatever. So my plan was I was going to get to his house Friday night and then hang out with him, get up, and then make the rest of the trip home on Saturday.
Sure.
Well, he calls me. I'm just about to get to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I ended up having to drive through Chattanooga, the city. What a cool city.
Is it? Yeah,
it seems, I mean, at least the parts I saw, it seems like a cool city on the river because the Twins minor league team, the AA team is in Chattanooga.
Okay.
So anyway, so I get just about to Chattanooga and he calls me and he says, hey, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm just about to Chattanooga. He said, oh, how many more? I still have about 6 more hours before I'm at your place. I go, I probably won't be getting to your house till like 11 o'clock. Yeah. He goes, well, I got to tell you, the S is about to hit the fan. He said, because that line of tornadoes.
That storm. Okay.
So I said, oh, crap, really? He goes, yeah, you're going to be driving right through the teeth of it. He says, he goes, you're obviously welcome to stay here. He said, but I'm just telling you right now, you're going to hit this and it's going to be nasty.
No, yeah, you don't want to drive.
So I got to Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
Which is basically on the border of Kentucky and Illinois into southern Illinois.
Okay.
And the skies were green. And it's about 7 o'clock at night. And I remember thinking, all right, well, even if I floored it, I'm still not going to get to his house until close to midnight. Yeah. So is it smarter to just pull off, stop here, or whatever? And so I remember I get this random room at some Quality Inn or whatever the hell. And so I pull up, and it was, the parking lot's about half full. So I pull up, And I'm grabbing my stuff because the other thing was we had bought some food and I had a big cooler.
Okay.
Well, I got to bring it in with me just to put it in the hotel fridge so it doesn't, cold, keep it cold so it doesn't spoil because that's some meat and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm, running to and from the truck. Oh, I'm going to have a sip of beer here, whatever. And I got back to my room, and all of a sudden I heard the sirens go off. Oh. And it's probably, I had the basketball game on, so it's probably like 8:00. And the hotel receptionist comes to my room because I was very close to the front desk, and she says, "Hey, just to let you know, we are supposed to offer you shelter in the event of significant weather." And I said, "Oh yeah, I hear the sirens." And she says, "I'm here to offer you shelter." And I was taking that as a hint of, oh, okay, I'm about to die in this Quality Inn in Paducah, Kentucky.
Quality craftsmanship in making the inn, too.
Well, the shelter area, which, every hotel has to have a designated area, was where they serve their breakfast.
Oh, nice.
And there's, like, families with little kids. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to take up
get in there, kids.
Get in there. And I said, no, you know what? I'm good. Just because I'm picturing these poor moms and dads with their little ones that are scared, what. Sure. And I thought,
it's late. It's
late. They're all tired. They're probably in the same boat I am. They were traveling and just said, we better pull off the freeway. Well, turns out, not far away, a family was literally blown off the freeway in their minivan driving back. I don't think anyone perished.
Sure.
But there was, the damage was nasty. The trees were down everywhere to the point where I went all Joe Souchery on it. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking out, grabbing the last of my stuff, and I'm right off the freeway, right? I can see the freeway and the semis and stuff going by, and I'm seeing the giant sign like swaying, and I went, I better move my truck.
Yeah, I got to get a little closer to the...
Not that I care if it gets hit, but I'm screwed getting back.
Yeah, you're stuck. Yeah.
I'm stuck in Paducah, Kentucky.
Oh.
And so anyway, I moved that, and then I went in, and it was actually kind of fun because I had the window open with the storm. Because I love sitting in a good storm.
Yeah, you just don't want to be killed by it.
No, I just don't want to die. Yeah. Right. And so, and of course, she checks in on me. So she calls me, and she says, "Hey, is everything going okay?" She goes, "Did you make it to Kurt's?" And I said, "Well, change of plans." I said I hit a lot of traffic, I was not lying to her. I said I hit a ton of traffic, so I'm not gonna be able to get all the way to his place tonight. I said, and I didn't want to scare her. And I said, yeah, there was some weather, so I thought I better just pull off the side of the road. It was getting late, and I didn't want to get caught in some rain or whatever. And she said, okay, as the sirens are blaring in the back.
She's thinking, did you get pulled over? I'm going to kill you.
Right. Yeah. But I said, no, everything's good. So anyway, it kind of turned into a little mini adventure, but I will say I'm never doing that again.
Okay.
I'm flying with my family going forward.
The death by 1,000 cuts, right? Let's go back to that.
Okay.
What you could have done is you could have ripped your shirt off, gone out into the storm, right, with the green, just that green thing, and taken some selfies and just done some like those Ric Flairs, woo, just like big, like, honey, look what I'm doing. I'm mastering the storm. Well, where you would have shown no fear, and she would have said, that's my man.
Well, you don't know my wife that well.
Okay. She would not have been impressed by that?
I was FaceTiming her because the boys wanted to say goodnight to me. And so I happened to be near the window of my hotel room, and it was open, and she could see the trees and stuff swaying, and she said, is that lightning? And she said, what's going on? I said, well, yeah, they're getting a thunderstorm, but it's really no big deal. Yeah. And she kind of could tell that I was probably not telling her the whole truth about that, but I was trying to not scare her.
Sure.
But it was getting up and then making my way to St. Louis because I ended up going to the Cardinals game that day with my buddy and then and his girlfriend, and then making the rest of the drive home after the baseball game, which meant I did not pull in my driveway till about 12:30 on Saturday. But you know what? It was fun. I got another great story, but I did tell my wife I'm probably not doing that again.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Well, if you plan it right and everything goes according to plan, then it's
but it
great.
all has to go according to plan.
But it all has to go according to plan, and it just did not.
And you could have been stuck in that storm that we got.
Oh, I know, and that's what I said. Oh my God, I would have been I would have gone mad.
Did you lose power during that storm?
Here in Minnesota? Or you mean down there?
Here in Minnesota.
We did not. In fact, I know because my wife got super bummed out because my wife, since I met her 25 years ago, almost 25 years ago, she was a first-time Minnesota resident. I've explained this to you before, but she desperately hates the cold. Like, just does not like the cold. That's why we try to get out of here at least once a winter to go somewhere, because she will go insane if she has to stay here, especially with a winter like this where we've had so much snow.
Yeah, it's just nonstop.
So when they fly back and they get home
and get 10 inches of snow,
and then it's pouring the first day that they're back, and then it turns into a foot of snow, she gets a little irritable. That's when I thought, I think I'm going to go to the baseball game today and just maybe get back a little bit later than I normally would.
I'm going to just sneak in.
But I just thought, why not? It timed out perfect that they're in town, that my buddy already had tickets to the game. I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the game for just a couple innings, and then I'm going to head back the rest of the way.
That little storm wreaked a little havoc on the Fratelloni household. We lost power for a couple of days. Never had happened before.
Was it because of the weight of snow?
I think so. Some trees went down, and when you'd file a report with Excel saying, hey, by the way, I don't have power.
Right.
And they gave you just nothing. They said, check back in 20 minutes. And they said, check back in 20 minutes for like 2.5 days for us. But
what do you do?
It was funny. My house never got below like 58 degrees.
Same thing with Joe. He said he goes, I don't think it got below 60 in my house.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird how efficient my old house that was built in 1885, it would have been whatever temperature it was outside in like 5 hours. And I'm not being facetious.
Wow.
That thing had, you could
So you would have also been in a hotel room.
Yeah, I would have been in a hotel room. And then I would have had to figure out how my pipes don't burst, although it didn't really get that cold.
Okay.
But my family was kind of all freaking out. I was like, it's not that... It's okay. We don't really have lights, and the refrigerator, everything in the refrigerator is gone.
Interesting.
I was fine, right? I didn't.
But look at that. That's a generational thing.
Yeah.
Is right because you've got 3 teenage daughters in your house.
Yep.
And is it because we don't have access to technology? We don't have access to.
Well, they wanted to get a generator, and tell me, using your brain, that logic you just used, what did my children want to charge?
Their phones.
Yeah. Didn't care about lights, didn't care about food, didn't care about anything.
In fact, can you go start your vehicle so I can go plug this into the USB port in your car?
That's exactly what we had to do.
Yeah.
We had to go do that. And then they said, well, we could get a charger so we can make sure Wi-Fi works. I was like, we're not doing either of those things.
I got to tell you, I might be talking out of both sides of my mouth right now. I did not know this until this last road trip. And I don't know, because my wife and I both got the new iPhone back in January.
Yes.
Because we switched plans, we switched our carriers and whatnot. And so I always use the basic navigation on my iPhone.
Okay.
I even use it when I come to and from work. And the only reason, and people make fun of me, but the reason I do it is because, well, if there's construction or if there's an accident, I don't want to, I want to be able to
reroute you.
Yeah. Do you know what they have on the new navigation feature?
No.
They warn you of speed checks.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not kidding. I was notified every time there happened to be a patrolman in Georgia or Tennessee or this is awesome.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then do they do that? Like, is that, something's blocking the left lane up a mile? Is it still there?
Yes.
And I think how collectively cool is that?
It's kind of worrisome as far as the invasion of AI. And we know that Elon and everybody else has worries about that.
Yep.
But I thought, well, wait a minute. But it's funny because I think I wasn't the only one who was using, and it's not like I'm driving 100 in a 70, but if it's a 70 zone, I'm going to set the cruise at 78.
Yeah. You're going to get some
80.
Yeah.
But I'm going to set the cruise at a reasonable speed.
Yeah, safe but fast.
But you could tell because there would be, and you kind of form your little convoys, right, with other people that you could tell are going to be on I-75 for the next 4 hours. So every time it would go off, we'd all slow down at the same time.
Really?
So I'm wondering how many other people were using the same navigation tool that I was.
That is crazy.
But what's funny, so it would pick up. And again, nobody has more respect for law enforcement than me. But I just want to be notified if there's going to be someone monitoring speed ahead of me.
You just want to be the safest you can possibly be.
Absolutely.
You don't want to have them pull you over and create a danger for them.
So even those, I don't even know what you call those, but like let's say, because I have them in Scott County. Scott County will set up a stand on the wheels that'll monitor speed.
Tells you how fast you're going. Yeah.
And it also, because it could be a construction zone. It says, hey, it's not 70, it's 55 here, and then it'll show your speed.
Yep.
So it even picked up those as a speed check, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Let me ask this. Do you do what I do, where it says, okay, the destination is 23 miles away, you can get there in 27 minutes, and you think, want to bet? and you race it a little bit?
100%.
100%. Because you had a pretty long run. Did you beat any of the numbers by a dramatic amount?
Everyone.
Really?
Except for the one coming back when I had to drive back through Atlanta on, what day was that? On Friday.
I'm always shocked how sometimes it's incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you're going to get there in 37 minutes, and you roll in 37 minutes.
But I will say this, as far as that goes, I should have known better. In fact, because when I got down there, she had asked me, well, are you coming back the same way? And I said, I think I'm going to go a different way because I don't want to drive through Atlanta coming back. Yeah. The only problem is, unless you go all the way up, like the Gulf side and go through all of those states, there's no good, efficient way to come back. Because then I thought, well, maybe I could go all the way to Houston, go to the Astros game, and then I wasn't going to do that.
Please, God, tell me we're just joking.
I was not going to do that. Yeah. But no, there was literally no other reasonable way to get back.
Have you and Joe and the team at Garage Logic talked about AI yet?
Not on the show, but we have said to Joe, we should probably find somebody to bring on to discuss this because this is a big deal.
Do you remember back, there was a Super Bowl commercial many years ago, and I think it was for Bud Light or something, and it was all of these robots from a car dealership or a car manufacturing thing jumping off a bridge pretending to kill themselves.
Okay.
Do you remember? Does that ring a bell?
It's not ringing a bell.
There was times where the world said, I'm sorry, we're putting in a robot, and it's going to displace this guy who's the welder. And we're doing the robots because it's infinitely more efficient. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to find a different job. And the world just said, man, robots are coming. We're just going to have to get used to it. But everybody who lost their job was pissed, right? Yep. But now with AI, they're saying, hey, attorneys, we have this AI that can do your job better than you can. Sorry, you're not going to be able to be an attorney anymore. And then the world loses their mind, right? Every accountant says, stop, time out, this isn't happening. It's like, oh, none of you were complaining when
it's the
robot
took
the machinist job. You were all fine with it. Those guys are just going to lose their job. But the moment they prove that a little AI device that downloaded 100 million times in a month can take an attorney's job, they were like, bull crap.
Wait a minute.
We're not letting this happen.
Wait, this is happening to us now?
Now it makes more and more. Note to the 19-year-old who's listening to this show, and if college wasn't if high school was, you did fine in high school, but you didn't love it, and you're thinking about wasting your money in college, go become a plumber, make yourself $250 an hour, work whenever you want to work, and have a skilled job and make a fortune for years to come because no AI is going to take that. No. Right? They're never building a device that's going to go fix that.
Because nothing can be, what's the word? With a job, with an individual skilled job like that, you have to factor in,
millions of variances.
Correct.
Right?
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, there's just every day is different. Yes. Everything is unique. They just can't do it. But attorneys.
So this was the year between my sophomore and junior year of college. I wasn't quite 21. I was 20. I was about to turn 21 at school, and I was working at this tool factory in Owatonna, Minnesota, right off the freeway. It's the building is still there, but it's something completely different now. And I'll never forget this. So, it's one of those summer jobs you have for 3 months where, you work really hard. You're going to make a ton of money, for a 20-year-old kid, and then you're going to be done with it. And I'll never forget because I was one of the few, what they call the summer interns that got forklift certified. So I made a little bit extra money than everybody else did.
And you got to sit down.
But I'll never forget this because one of my jobs was each morning I had to roll to this one side to pick up a really huge container full of heavy parts, right? That were all being, laser fitted on this one machine. And they had brought in a new machine that didn't need a human to operate it. Oh. And this was a work area of 4 guys, and they were pissed to the point where they were like, well, we're not coming in. We're not coming in when this thing gets installed on Monday, and you guys will have to deal with it. Well, none of them lost their jobs, but their jobs were going to be altered a bit. So they were obviously you can get that. Well, it turns out that this machine made their lives so much easier. They ended up, this actually is kind of great.
I'm not as dirty. It's not as loud,
Exactly.
right? Everything's a little. They still need us here to make sure the machine's doing it right.
And of course, I'm just the dumb college kid working there, so I can't say anything because anything you try to say is immediately dismissed. But I thought,
Yeah, let it play out, boys. Let it play out for a little bit.
What summer was this? So it's 1998. It's not like we need to be anyway. So
you don't have to be worried about the uprising of the machine at that point in time.
Exactly.
I think we are. Someone said that AI is like the biggest technical revolution in the history of mankind, right? And that made me worried, right?
Same.
Yeah, it made me think, is this podcast going to go away? Are they going to have a Mike 2.0 who's infinitely funnier?
We
who
already have
doesn't
Sidekick in a can.
That's right. Maybe he won't have those weird feet. Maybe he'll have no feet.
You won't wear socks on the beach.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe but it's going to take a little while. But I would caution the world to look for a job nowadays that has a lot of variation, can't be duplicated.
Right.
Maybe your billing can be done by AI, but the actual work is with your hands, and you got to go out and electricians and plumbers.
So before I forget to ask, Florida. Mm-hmm. Serious question.
Yeah.
Is that area going to recover?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
By this time next year, it will be 100% looking great.
You seriously think that? Because my wife and I were having this
Peter,
discussion.
Minnesota? You know where St. Peter is, right?
Yeah.
They had that big tornado whip
Yeah,
through.
but that was 20.
My point is it took a little sleepy town like St. Peter, totally destroyed it, and within a couple of years, it was rebuilt. They had a new grocery store.
Okay,
a new,
I see your point.
And that's St. Peter, Minnesota, where no one cares. I mean, everybody loves St. Peter, Minnesota.
Where people don't make it a destination.
Property in St. Peter is not $19 million an acre on the beach, right?
Okay,
in Florida, I promise you, it will 100% recover instantaneously.
Well, here's why I asked, because the house we rented was in a great neighborhood. What are those? What do you call them? The boatway alleys.
Sure,
that are
the
behind?
intercoastals.
Is that what those are called? Okay, so there was one of those where the lady who owned the house owned a boat, and she said, you guys have access to all. She had fishing poles and bikes and all sorts of stuff. And she said, unfortunately, the boat's not available for renters. And of course, we totally get that. But she said, in the morning, if you go down there, so of course we did. If you go down there in the morning, you might see a gator. You might see it's cool.
Yeah,
it's just cool.
It's very cool. Yeah.
And so I remember I was putting out the garbage one of the nights, and the neighbor across the street happened to be also. So we just started to chat, and he and his wife were from, I believe, the Massachusetts area, and they moved down there 20 years ago, whatever it was. And every house, like in that 6-block area, was all having their roofs repaired, right?
Yep.
And so he and I were just casually talking about the hurricane damage, and he says, well, you should have seen this area about 4 months ago. He said it's come a long way. He says, but it's going to be a while before. I guess that's the only reason why I asked.
I mean, they just got to get it done. They just don't have enough people to do it, right?
That's it.
I mean,
it's a manpower
teams of
issue.
People
because I mean, the beach we drove by, Mike, there were still boats on land.
Yeah, pushed up on the parking lot. Yeah, what are you going to do with them, right? I mean, you just don't have the people to go grab them. I mean, so down in Bonita, where my parents are, right? They said that the place that they have is kind of like on the beach, and they said they can't even go there because they said, you don't really want to be down here. There's no landscaping. So there's no grass. It's just dirt and sand, right? And I mean, even the roads were destroyed because the roads were pavers.
Yep.
And, those got ripped apart, and it's like,
I can't even imagine, because Jess and I were talking about this, I can't even imagine the looting situation that must have been going on.
Yeah.
It must have been just out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think, although you'd have to be pretty ballsy to say, I'm going to go into the eye of this hurricane and look for something in one of these houses.
Well, so the way that I forget the gentleman's name that I was talking to about this, because he and his wife stayed. And their house, he said, we had a little bit of roof damage. He said, but he was pointing to some of the other houses about the significance of damage. But he basically said, unfortunately what happened is a lot of the people didn't really take the warning seriously because we get hurricanes here.
Sure.
That's part of living in this part of the country. That's what happens here. And he said the problem was when people realized just how bad it was going to be, it was too late.
Too late, yeah.
Because he said, I forget the name of the major road that leaves Cape Coral through Fort Myers to get onto the freeway to 75
Trail or something,
whatever it's called. But that main road, he said, there was a point where people were just sitting in their car on that road for hours.
Yeah.
You weren't going anywhere.
Sure.
It's tough enough on a regular day in that area to just get. It takes you 15 minutes to go 3 miles on a busy day. But he goes with that. You couldn't get anywhere.
You just couldn't go anywhere. My cousin Tommy, he has a place down there.
Okay,
and hurricane's coming. He lives up here. So what does he do? Wants to get down there right off the bat. So he flew down to be there for the hurricane. And I said,
to protect his property?
I don't know. I mean, he's off the beach, right? So he thought he was going to be pretty safe. He's like, oh, we're going to just ride it out. I'm like, he goes, I knew I was doing something wrong because when I flew down there, I was the one person on the Delta flight. And
they need that plane down there because they're trying to get people out of there.
They need to get the plane down there and no one was going with him down there, right?
Wow.
So he flew down there, the one on the entire plane, and then when he came back, he didn't. He's still down there, but he said it was just really a lot of rain, and he's like, let's say 10 minutes in, maybe 5-6 miles inland, which was fine, and nothing got damaged. He said the water got real high. It got up to the lip of his, 7-inch lip. Like the drains couldn't get the water out fast enough because it was coming down so hard. But he said it was totally fine. Huh. And I was like, wow, that's
because I was looking for, because I didn't know, when you go down there, you don't really know what's open, what's not going to be open. I remember because I wanted to take the fam out for dinner at Doc Ford's, Randy's place, right? Because I wanted to go there on the off chance that maybe he was there, would buy a GL dinner.
There you go.
No, but his place on Fort Myers wasn't even open.
Really?
No. Yeah. But it didn't look like it had the area around it was severely damaged, but his place itself didn't look too rough shape.
What's the name of it?
Doc Ford's.
Doc Ford's. Why do I? Where is that? I don't know. Why.
It's right on the beach.
Oh, right on the beach.
Yeah,
okay.
he's got
Myers?
4 locations.
Okay,
because we were talking about it during a break on GL, but he's got 4 locations, I believe.
Oh, well, I think it's going to come back way stronger.
So you're confident? Okay.
I'm more than confident. It is 100% coming back, and it's going to be 100% nicer. Everything's going to be built stronger, so the next time a hurricane comes through, it won't knock stuff over.
So you're a guy that would know this kind of thing, because one of the observations while I was wearing socks on the beach that I made was, so for instance, and I don't even know what chain of hotel it would have been, but you know what I'm talking about, the 3 hotels that are on that, the big high-rise hotels. Days, whatever it is, in Fort Myers.
Like the Lani Kai.
Whatever, whatever. Yeah. So if you're one of those buildings that's got 12 floors, now, because I remember looking at, it was, several hundred yards away, but I remember looking at that. Everything's fenced in, so there's construction guys there. I'm thinking, why not just tear that damn thing down and start over?
Yeah, because all it is water damage, right? So some of those buildings, they just got really wet, and all of the elevator shafts are bad. So water got into the elevator shafts in some of the buildings that I know, so they can't use the elevators, so the hotel can't be open. So hypothetically, when they get those elevators working again, they can kick the hotel back open. The problem is you need to have air conditioning running all day, every day.
To get rid of the moisture.
Because otherwise you just mold out. So the whole thing would be mold. So then you'd have to rip everything out if you have mold and get rid of the mold. So you got to get your air conditionings and your those units up to get rid of the moisture. But then you can't get people up to the 11th floor because workers aren't going to take the staircases up there. You got to get those elevators working. Well, how many elevator companies are there in Florida? Right? There's a bunch, but they're not ready to. Yeah, they're not going to go fix 800 elevators.
We'll get to you in August.
Whenever their next turn is, right? So one of my parents' places, that's the problem with their places. The elevators are not in use. So each building that they said we're going to get one elevator working, and you can't have elderly people even walk up 2 flights of stairs. Right? It's just they're not going to do it. So every place is closed until all the elevators get back up to speed.
That makes sense.
So it's tough. They're even saying there's so many workers around that they just kind of said, just give them space. Like, don't come down here and be in their workers' way.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's unsafe, and not that there's anything, just as dangerous as being at a construction site when someone's trying to, back a forklift up and you're walking across with a lounge chair. It's like,
any time that, at least from what I saw, anything that was being worked on was fenced off.
Yeah.
Just because I'm guessing for that.
You just don't want anybody.
Because you don't want some dopes from Minnesota to be walking through there with their kids.
We would do that too. That's how we would do it.
But what's funny about because me and humidity don't really get along well, which is
your
why
hair gets real curly.
Well, it's I get it. It's nice where in the middle of March or the end of March you can go somewhere and it's July.
Yep.
Right, and that's what makes Florida great. And then, but it's funny because you'll get the list of when you rent the house, like the list of instructions. Don't do this. Please remember to do that.
Sure.
Things like that. And the lady we rented the house from could not possibly have been a better host.
Oh, that's nice.
Like she was awesome to the point where she actually gave us because the grill. The propane tank was empty, so I had to go run to the store. She said, "Oh my God, tell me he didn't pay for it." So she not only reimbursed it, but then gave me gas money.
Oh, that was sweet.
I'm like, "Oh my God, you'd have to do that."
Well, that she wants that 5-star because that means a lot.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, but one of the instructions was, do not turn off the air conditioning.
Yep.
Because
you'll mold out.
And you never know when the next people are coming to rent the house or whatever. But
you got to keep air conditioning on all the time.
And when you do. Like if she'll turn it up a degree, like you notice, like, oh, who turned the air conditioning up? Like it's hot in here, it's sticky in here.
Oh, isn't that fun? It's so nice. My family's going down this week because it's our spring break right now.
Nice.
And I said, I'm so busy, right? I have so much going on that I just don't want to take spring break right now. I have too much on my mind. So my family's going to go, but I'm not going to go. And so
you poor soul. So you're going to be stuck here all by yourself.
All by myself for a handful of days. Right, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Oh. I'm gonna miss them like so bad.
I know.
I mean, like even Easter Sunday. I don't even know what I'm gonna do for Easter Sunday because everybody's gonna be out of town. Right? I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be just super sad.
You know what you're gonna do?
What's that?
You're gonna sit at home and think about them.
I'm gonna think about them. I'm gonna Snapchat them because I've been using Snapchat a lot now. So I'm gonna send them some snaps. It is. I am looking forward to having a little bit of downtime. My goal, I was gonna take a couple days off this week, and then I ended up working like 14 hours yesterday, and I was like, that doesn't feel like really day off-ish.
No.
But I wore jeans. I didn't wear khakis, so I felt more comfortable.
Okay.
That was something, right?
There you go.
And one of my guys said today, he's like, hey, I thought you were going to be off today. And I said, yeah, but I had to do this meeting. And he goes, okay, well, you're going home now. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do the weekly scramble. And then I have a 6 o'clock meeting tonight. And he's like, oh, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
Hey, that's not a vacation,
It's going to be great, though. It is really great. I'm super excited about it.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
No.
Right? I wouldn't do this show, although this paycheck is so incredible.
Oh, I know.
I kind of have to do it, right? We keep me in the...
And we always appreciate... We give you, I believe, a 10% raise every year.
Yeah, that's
doing
right.
This show.
Which was generous this year.
Yeah, it was nice.
I thought I was really kind of impressed. Isn't that what you get, too?
I think so.
Okay.
Sure.
Like, I don't even know.
I did try. I'm trying to convince Joe.
Yeah.
Because it's... Okay, quick tirade about him for just a minute. Because, I have to make fun of Joe. So... He was giving me crap about, you just went on vacation. I go, well, that was just her and I, and that was our anniversary. Our 15-year anniversary. That's why she and I went on vacation together. And it also happened to coincide with a wedding. I said, this is the fam. So this is like...
Yeah, this is different.
But, and I said, Joe, you have more time off than anybody that I know. Not that I'm encouraging you to take more time off, but... Go somewhere in the winter.
He doesn't take time off.
No. Well, he likes to work, which is, I really respect him for that.
He's a man of diligence and consistency,
But
right?
I say, well, go somewhere warm in the winter. You have friends that live all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm trying to convince him next year let's do the show from Fort Myers.
For a month.
Randy would put us up like a broadcast area at Dock 4. He'd do it in a second.
Yeah, but you guys can broadcast from anywhere.
Anywhere.
He could do it from the lanai or the veranda at his place.
But we just can't use the elevator.
That's when Royce sold his palatial estate down in Florida, I was talking to him at the state fair. And he said, I just wasn't getting down there enough. And I thought, wow, this is the time to own it now. When you're getting a little older now, get down there. But he might not like the heat either.
When I saw him on Monday, when we weren't recording the show, I said, I hate you right now. What did I do? He's thinking, what did I, he said, what did I tweet?
Oh, what did I tweet?
I said, no, you dumbass. I said, I'm mad that you sold that place. I would have been your...
Cabana boy.
No, not even that. No, I would have been his, property manager.
Sure.
I said, you didn't, why did you, it's too, his comeback. That's too much paperwork.
Yeah.
I said, I would have done all of it.
But you got to remember, some of those places, like those communities that you live in, don't let you Airbnb the places.
You can.
It did. Okay.
Trust me.
They usually only allow long-term renters, so you can only rent it for like 2 months at a time.
I think his was fine.
Oh, okay.
And
that's
his would have been perfect.
Oh, really?
Because I know I said this, I was down in Florida back in November. I can't believe how fast there's so much new housing down there.
Every day.
It's unreal.
Yeah, every day, new communities. I wonder if instead of you taking an increase or me taking an increase in wage from the Hubbards, we could just ask them to get a place down there for us.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get on that.
Royce could use it. Sushere could use it. You and I could use it. I'd even go down there with you. Take you golfing. You could wear those beach socks.
Only if I could wear my beach socks in the golf course.
When you put that up on the, that was like those. Remember those shoes that have those individual toe fingers?
Yeah, those are weird.
Yeah, guys, death by 1,000 cuts. There's not one woman that's looked at a guy and said, "Oh, he really wears those cool shoes with the fingerless or the finger holes for his toes."
Right.
Boy, I'm a dating expert.
You really are.
Reuvers, you're the best.
Thank you, Michael. Please do us a favor, rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening to the Weekly Scramble. We would greatly appreciate it. His name is Mike Fratelloni. My name is Chris Reuvers. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, cheers.